As I said, we're in the middle of this home team series. Your home team or your family is the most important team you'll ever be a part of. I said this last week, if you weren't here, many times, a lot of us were handed a bad playbook when we started our family. A lot of you grew up playing sports, and at some point you'd be handed a playbook, the plays that we're going to run to try to win. And some of us don't feel like we're winning at family. You could be winning at lots of other areas of your life, but if you're losing at family, it just feels like everything's broken. Because sometimes we've been handed a bad playbook about how to be a husband or a wife, or how to have a Christian home, or how to raise kids, or how do we navigate boundaries with our in-laws, or how do we raise kids in today's challenging world, all those kinds of things. We were handed a playbook and go, I'm just going to do my best, but we don't necessarily have the winning plays to put points on the scoreboard. So all throughout this series, we've just been saying, let's talk family. Let's talk marriage. Let's talk kids. Let's talk in-laws. Let's talk siblings. Let's talk about aging parents. Let's talk about what do you do when one of your kids just decides, hey, I don't want to live your values anymore, and just walks away from the faith. Let's talk about a lot of those things. Why? Because it's on our mind. It's what's in our heart. The predominant prayer requests that we get here at Journey every week are around family. People turn them in and say, hey, can you pray for this? Can you pray for that? And almost always it has to do with somebody we love in our family. And then I always feel this tension when I'm talking about family, because I'm always caught in the middle of the real versus the ideal. If you're taking notes, write a few things down with me. The real versus the ideal. I'm just a normal person, and I am fully aware that family is messy. Marriage, dating, navigating, parenting your kids, and there are many of us in here that you're in your second marriage, or you got a blended family and you're co-parenting with somebody, or you're a single parent, or hey, I've never been married but I want to be married. Like, we're all at different places, and your situation is unique and different, and it's just real and messy. It's not like social media. It's not it's the reels versus reality, right? Like there's a messiness to family, but I always feel this tension because I want to point us to the ideal. Like, I think that's part of my job is to say, but God has a way, a better way, and He wants to point us toward that and say, I love you just the way you are, and I realize that situation is very messy, but I also want to challenge you to move forward. Like he loves us just the way we are, but He loves us too much to let us stay that way, just to keep moving forward. So your situation is unique and different. And I'm going to talk to a general audience, and you're going to have to take some of those things and go, how do I apply that to my situation? If I'm single, if our kids are at this stage or that stage, or if we're co-parenting with someone, how do we apply that to our situation? So every time we talk about family, I always give us some ground rules. I've mentioned it a couple of times in different ways, but everyone's family is different. And so your family is unique, and it has a unique context. The good thing about these principles are that it's not a formula. Formulas don't take into consideration context, but they're principles that we can apply to our life at different stages. But be careful, because sometimes what we do is that we dismiss the wisdom or advice too quickly, and we say that won't work. That won't work because. So don't dismiss it too quickly. No one's perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. And the goal is not perfection. The goal is progress. Number 3, healthy is hard. What I'm going to say to us today is not easy. It's stressful and challenging, and everything that we talk about here at Journey when it comes to following Jesus or living a way that's really challenging. Like, we understand healthy is hard. We're not going to solve the family problem today during the service. And then the most important one, from this day forward. From this day forward. Nobody has a time machine. We all have regrets. We can't go back. From this day forward, what am I going to do? In fact, that's what we should do every week when we come to church, is to go, hey, I can't go back. Like, I'm going to take what I hear today, and I'm going to do my best to follow Jesus into the future. So last week we talked about marriage, the foundation of family, and today we're going to talk about parenting. Now, lots of us here in the room or at Parker or over at Lone Tree watching online, you have kids. Many of us will have kids one day if you're not married or you don't have kids yet. Many of you will have kids, so don't check out. And then all of us have the opportunity to influence a younger generation. So take what I'm going to say and then kind of put it into your context. So 2 things to start us out today. One, if you're a parent in the room, you came in with your parenting cup, okay? And if you're like me, my wife has a Starbucks cup obsession. We have lots of Starbucks cups at the house. And she doesn't drink Starbucks, so I don't know how that happened. But the cups. So you came in with a parenting cup. And in the cup is everything you know about parenting, your baggage, your style, your perspective, your way of doing things, the things that you're trying to learn as a parent. This is your parenting cup. And it's a big cup. And so all I'm going to try to do today is to take my little cup, okay? This is what I know about parenting. This is wisdom. This is experience. This is scripture. This is what I know about parenting. And I'm not responsible to fill your cup. There's no way I could do that today. I'm just responsible to empty mine, okay? So I'm going to empty my little cup into your cup, and then you take that and you use it as you will. The other thing I need to say to you just really clearly is I know I'm the pastor. I know I'm up on a platform. I know I have the microphone, but my family is not perfect. I get this wrong all the time. If we brought my 2 kids up here on stage, they're adults, they could tell you all the things that Dad does wrong. They get together and talk about all the weird things that Dad does wrong. So they could go through it. So at different points in my life, especially like as journey grows and you're up on a stage and talking and these kind of things. Sometimes people will say, "Hey, what do you do to fight pride in your life? And what do you do to keep from getting a big head?" I'm like, I have kids. Like, they're my kryptonite to pride because they'll let me know, right? They'll go, "Why are you wearing that? What are you saying? What are you doing?" Like, nobody's impressed with Scotty around the house, okay? So literally several years ago, my son is at college. I get off of the stage. I check my phone, and it says, "What are you wearing?" Like, so I thought, okay, that's a win. He's watching, and I need to return this shirt. Those are the 2, So we're not perfect. But I'm just going to do my best to give you what I have. I've shied away from it, but now, listen, I have 2 kids that they're adults, almost 25, almost 22. My son is married and just had their 2nd baby. And then my daughter's a senior at the University of Arkansas. She's about to graduate, just got her first big girl job. She's going to work during grad school. So I'm just so proud of them. And so I've got a little bit of experience, and I've worked with lots of people. So I'm just going to give you what I have today. I hope it's helpful. Every parent I know, every parent, whether you have toddlers, whether you have elementary age kids or teenagers or adult kids, every single parent I know is asking this question: am I getting it right? Am I getting it right? And almost every day you think, I don't think I am. Almost every day you go, what am I doing? What's the scoreboard? Do you remember, if you're a parent in this room, when you took your baby home from the hospital for the first time? Do you remember this moment of sheer panic? And you're thinking, are they going with me? Is your mom coming? What are we doing? There's no... And then you get to each stage and you go, am I getting it right? Am I succeeding? Am I messing this kid up? Anybody know what I'm talking about? Psalms 127. It's written by Solomon, and it just is a very simple idea, but it's a beautiful word picture. Children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from him. There's something in our culture that's weird, that it downplays having kids. Something in our culture that says, hey, if you want to live your highest and best life, you should avoid kids. I just kind of hear this undercurrent of a message. But God says, listen, children are a heritage from the Lord. They're a blessing. They're a reward. I mean, some days they feel like a punishment, but they are a reward. And then he says, like arrows in the hands of a warrior are children born in your youth. Arrows in the hands. So there's a lot of bow hunters here at our church. they'll let you know. They'll show you a picture of something they've killed. And a lot of hunters here in our church, a lot of concealed carry. So be careful around here. If you don't like it, you'll hate this church. So there are a lot of bow hunters. And if you're going to go hunt it, you'll go to your local archery store. You'll run over to Cabela's. You'll go to Bass Pro or whatever, and you're going to buy some arrows. And they're manufactured, and they're made to certain specifications, and they're all uniform and similar for what you need. But in the time of the Bible, very, very different, right? These arrows look something more like this. Like, they're all unique. And you made them. You straightened them, you shaped them, you sharpened them, and then you released them. Do you see the word picture that he's trying to create here for us? Children are like arrows in your hands. And you don't go and buy them at the store, and they're not pre-made and manufactured. You're going to have to shape them. You're going to have to craft them. You're going to have to sharpen them. And then you're going to release them into the world. Children are like arrows in your hand. And it's the hardest job you'll ever have, and the most rewarding and the most challenging. And all of the things, you've got to be an engineer and a therapist and an Uber driver and everything else. But it's the most important thing we're going to do. So I asked the question, you asked the question, am I getting it right? So here's the question. Come on, parents. What's your it? Am I getting it right? What do you mean by that? Here's another way to think about that when it comes to the word picture of the arrows is, hey, what's your target? If we don't have a target, if we don't have a roadmap, if we don't have a framework for what we're trying to do with our parenting, then we end up being reactive in our parenting. Instead of thinking intentionally about things. Instead of thinking, where do I want to release this child to? How do I want to shape them and sharpen them and send? Where am I sending them? What am I developing in them to send out? This is just all for free, but when I was looking at this picture this morning, isn't it really encouraging to you about like all the missed shots? Because as a parent, like, this is a beautiful picture because they all hit the bullseye, but I don't know about you, but I'm always hitting somewhere around here. I want to create, though, a target. And Amy and I, we got married really young, and then we had our kids young, but we had this benefit, an added advantage, because we were youth pastors, and we worked with middle school and high school students, thousands of them over a decade. And we got to see up close and personal a lot of these students interact with their parents. And when we saw students that had the kind of faith and character and different things like that, and how they interacted with their parents. They enjoyed being around each other, and they were respectful, all those kinds of things. Like when we saw that they laughed together, we would pull up next to those parents and we would learn from them. We would absorb, be a sponge for them. Like, what do you do? How do you do that? What time do you guys have dinner? Like anything that you could tell us, we're going to take and apply that. And so we didn't really have words for this early on, but we kind of found our way toward our target. In the early days, you're just trying to survive, right? Because toddlers are on a suicide mission every day, and you're like, we're just trying to keep you from dying. But our target were these three words, and they might help you because they're big frameworks. Our target was faith, character, and relationships. Faith, character, and relationships. Now, when you ask most parents, what's your it? What's your target? It'll sound something like this. I just want my kids to be happy and successful. Now look at me. Those are byproducts, not the target. Happiness and success come from something else. So we have to dig a little bit deeper. We got to boil it down to something that's a little bit stronger, something that's foundational we can stand on. So for us, we settled into faith, character, and relationships. And we just live our life. And everybody's life is different, and the things that you value and all, but they can fit in this framework. So let's talk faith. For us, it was very, very important that our kids have a personal relationship with Jesus. We wanted them to come to know Jesus and follow him all the days of their life. So we did everything we could to try to put them in environments that would encourage that kind of faith. Now, everything I'm going to say is not a guarantee, because I know people who have done all of these things and their kids still rejected faith and went a different direction. Like kids are on their own journey with God. And so we have to do everything we can, but then they're little individuals. And so I'm going to encourage you to do your best, but not feel guilty if you're like, I don't know if that's working in my situation. So just a couple of things, okay? One, we prayed for our kids and still do every day. We prayed for and still do for our kids every day. We prayed for specific things. Here's how I like to say it. We prayed certain things into their life and certain things out of their lives. We prayed certain characteristics. I've prayed every day for my kids to love Jesus and follow him. I prayed every day for my kids' friends. I prayed that they would be leaders. I prayed that they would love football. And they do. It worked. And every day. And it used to be that it was in a little written journal. Now it's in my phone. And now I pray for my granddaughters. Same kind of things, just every day. And no one's going to pray for your kids like you. And so it's a privilege to take their names before the throne of God. Some days it was just for a few minutes. Some days it was for a long time. Some days it was together because we're like, God, please help with this situation or that situation. Sometimes something was going on in their life, a relationship or a friendship or something, and we would try to pray it out of their lives. Like, we're praying her out of your life. You know, it was something like that. And just saying, let's get this, yeah. So when I did the wedding ceremony for my son and my daughter-in-law, I was able to look at her and say, I have prayed for you every day for 20 plus years. And just to receive her as a daughter into our family and say, hey, I'm going to treat you like that. And I've been praying for you long before I knew you. I'm praying for my daughter's future husband. I don't like him. I don't even know him. She's not even dating anybody. I just kind of know that internally. So I'm praying that I'll like him. I'm praying he's going to be my favorite. I'm praying he's just going to be funny and love to be around and like football, all those things. I'm just praying for him. Praying that he will love her like I love her mom. I'm praying that he will take care of her and all these kinds of things. So pray for your kids. Here's another one, just another thought for you, is that this is just like a little pro tips, okay? Don't make faith weird. There's enough weirdness going on in the church. Don't make faith weird. Here's another way to say that, is that sometimes faith, it feels like a separate thing. And it feels like something that was up on the shelf and we pull it out in case of emergencies. No. Faith is just part of our life. And we just talk about our relationship with God. We talked about as naturally with our kids about faith as we did about football or what happened at school today or what's going on when you're dating life. Like, faith is just part of who we are. This might set some of you free. When we first had kids and they were growing in their toddler years and in their elementary age, we had friends that would do like special devotionals. Like they would get their family together in the living room and they would do a special devotional and they would read out of this book and they would sing songs or whatever. And we tried to do that a couple of times. It just felt so weird. It just like, this isn't us. And I'm a pastor of a church. This is what I do every week. And so we just decided, what if we just shift that to all the normal rhythms of our life? What if we just talk about faith at the dinner table and on the drive and at bedtime and those kinds of things? So, faith. Here's another one. This is maybe a little bit controversial, but we made our kids go to church. And you're like, of course you did. You're the pastor. That'd be weird. Yeah, we made our kids go to church because we thought that was really, really important. It was a huge value for us. And sometimes people will say, I don't want to make my kids, I don't want to shove that down their throat. Listen, we make our kids do things all the time. We make them brush their teeth and do their homework and stay committed to a sports team. Like, they're not ready to make that decision, so mom and dad make that decision for them. Now, as they got into their teenage years and it was a little bit more of a challenge, and I don't know if I want to go. I mean, we were lenient about different things, and it wasn't like a legalistic thing. It was just, this is a big priority for us. Get your kids serving in church as soon as possible. as soon as our kids were physically able to put crackers, goldfish into little bags for other kids at church, we did that. Why? Because this is what we do. This is what followers of Jesus, we serve other people. We modeled it in front of them. Small groups are important, like reading your Bible and praying. We want our kids just to say, oh, I just saw my parents doing that. Because kids don't do what we say, they do what they see, okay? So character, another big thing that we were aiming at. And that was all the stuff on the inside. When you think about things like honesty and integrity, responsibility, things like being a leader, all those kinds of, we were trying to develop that stuff. We wanted our kids to be bigger on the inside than they are on the outside. Because we knew, hey, if we aim this arrow and it hits faith and it hits character, that goes a long way. And then relationships. We're always going to err on the side of relationship with our kids. At the top of my prayer list, almost every day of our life, I prayed something like, I pray that my kids, our family, we would love each other, like each other, and be friends for life. Because you can love somebody and not like them, but I want us to like each other, and I want us to be friends for life. Here's another way to say that. What we hope for, what we prayed for, is that when our kids didn't have to choose us, they would choose us. So we're trying to build that, and we want to err on the side of relationships. Our kids are going to have doubts. Our kids are going to make decisions that we don't agree with, and we're going to keep leaning in even when they disappoint us. And then their relationships outside of the circle of the family. Who your kids are friends with and the influences in their life are massively important. And it is okay for you to fight for that. I just want to tell parents, it's okay for you to fight for that. That's not a good influence. He who walks with the wise grows wise. A companion of fools suffers harm. Do whatever we can to get the right influences. That's why we have an amazing next generation ministry here at Journey. My kids have grown up through it. There's about 1,000 that are regularly involved in it. Kids ministry, middle school, high school ministry. If you're not helping your kid get into an environment where other adults are saying the same things you want them to hear, like building in their life other voices, other coaches in their life, we're missing it. Many of you who've raised teenagers have had this experience. My son was involved in our high school ministry. His youth pastor was named Charlie, amazing guy. And so one night, regularly, many nights, he would come home from youth group and go, Dad, you're not going to believe what Charlie said. And then he would just recount all the stuff that Charlie said. And then I would think to myself, I told you that at breakfast today. You didn't listen because it was from Charlie. It was from a different voice. I told Charlie to tell you that. Okay. Now, I'm going to go rapid fire here, okay? I'm going to pour out some stuff, so write down a few things with me, okay? I think this helps. I think this is a framework for parents. Find yourself in the framework. It's around the seasons of parenting. And when I say seasons, here's what I mean. We're all going through different seasons of parenting. The days are long, the years are short. The days are long, the years are short. And parenting is a day-by-day, brick-by-brick endeavor. We're not putting up prefab walls. We're putting out brick by brick by brick by brick. Each day's conversations, 2 steps forward, 10 steps back. We're building something over a long period of time. Have a long haul view. But along the way, kids kind of go through these natural different seasons, but sometimes parents don't recognize that and move with them. So you have to capitalize on the season. So, first season, we just simply call it the discipline years. Now, why do we call it the discipline years? Well, from about birth to going to kindergarten, there's this period of really helping our kids learn a few things, okay? And here's the big idea around it, is that we're teaching consequences. This is so important. Obviously, during this period, we're teaching love and attachment. I mean, these kids, we're holding them, we're loving them, we're giving them encouragement, all of those things. And I think my experience is that we kind of naturally gravitate toward that, but then we miss out on this part of it. This is so, so important. In this season, if you have kids in this season, it's exhausting because you're teaching consequences all the time. No, 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 no. Stop, don't stop. Get off that. Get off your sister. All the time. And we're teaching that some things are good, some things are bad. We reward what's good, and we discipline what's bad. So 3 big areas that we should teach consequences: disobedience, dishonesty, and disrespect. 3 big areas. Lots fall into that. But during this period of time, what you're trying to help your toddler into those preschool years, you're really trying to help them identify that there is an authority and I'm not it. That there are good things and bad things. That there are immediate consequences when I disobey, when I'm not honest, when I'm disrespectful. You're like, well, kids, they're just naturally great, right? I mean, they're just wonderful, just sweet. They never lie. You've not been around many kids. Kids are liars. They'll have chocolate all over their face and go, did you eat chocolate? No, no chocolate. They're disrespectful. They disobey. So in this period of time, we have to do things to what? Come on. Give them immediate, consistent consequences because they're going to push back, and what they need to find is something solid. They're going to push their boundaries, and they need to develop their obedience muscle. You're also teaching them how to follow Jesus, how to obey him, how to follow. You're teaching them that there is an authority in life, and we submit ourselves to that. They need that. Some of us need to go home and build this habit into our life. When we're brushing our teeth in the morning, we should look in the mirror and repeat after me. I am the adult. I am in charge. They're not the boss of me. This is so important. Sometimes during this season, I'll hear parents say things like, I just feel like I'm coming down on them all the time. I know. I feel like I'm just constantly disciplining them. I know. It's exhausting. I'll hear this. I don't want to break their spirit. Listen, you're not breaking their spirit, you're steering it. This is so important. Micah was the strongest-willed kid I have ever seen. And I thought, if I don't steer this, the world is in trouble. Like, he'll either be president or run a prison or, it's like, if I don't steer this, he's in trouble. Listen, parents. Someone will discipline your kids. It will either be you or it will be the world. And we say things like, I'm into gentle parenting. I'm into permissive parenting. I watch several TikTok videos, and I've got some advice from people who don't have kids. And go, I'm into permissive parenting. Like, we don't want to be hard on our discipline. We don't spank our kids. And to which I want to say, I know. We all know. You didn't have to tell anybody. We know. I just want to encourage you. I can't, I'm not your kid's parent. You've got to decide what to do. Everybody's got different histories and backgrounds of those kinds of things. But for us, I just tell you, we had a little wooden spoon that Mom carried it in her purse. It just kind of stuck out the purse. We go to Target and just stuck out the purse. It was used very rarely. Most of the time, she just have to say, spoon? Okay, you can do it. You want a spoon? Now listen, I'm trying to help you today, okay? I'm trying to help. It's exhausting now. But later, you will reap the benefits of this. It's exhausting now, but you don't want to have to fight the discipline battle when they're 15. You want to build that respect. Like parents, I'm going to fly through the rest of this, but this is really important for lots of young parents because you're pouring concrete in the foundation. I'm about to help you. Stop doing the 1, 2, 3 thing. You know what I mean? Johnny, 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 Johnny. I said, Johnny, stop. Johnny, stop. 1, 2. What are you doing? You're teaching your child that I don't have to obey until you get to 3. We've all done it. You're in Walmart, they're pitching a fit, you're counting to 40. You just taught them, I don't have to really obey until they get serious. Okay, I got to go. All right, here we go. The training years. This will go faster, but it's the elementary years. And this is really, really fun. This is a great time. And during the elementary years, typically everything's fun and nothing's dumb. You're about to hit the teenage years when everything's dumb and nothing's fun. So you want to use these years to develop all kinds of things. Here's what I mean. We want to train and explain. Train and explain. And so it's, hey, this is what we do as a family. This is how we handle this, and then explain why. Here's what I'm doing. I'm trying to teach a lot of values and skills during this time. This is what's important. This is how we treat people. This is how we treat one another, and we just coach it. When your kids are in that earlier time frame, we're trying to negotiate with them too much. You're trying to negotiate with the toddler who does not have the cognitive ability to understand what you're saying. What they need to hear is yes and no, consequences. But as they get older, they need to understand we do this and this is why we do this. They're building their cognitive ability there, values and skills. It's just things that we wanted for our kids, and they'll be different for everybody. But like I would teach my son how to shake a hand, like because I would go through life and I'd realize a lot of people don't know how to shake a hand. It's like a little fish. And like you do that weird grip too early thing. And I'm like, what do you, shake a hand, okay? And then look people in the eye when you talk to them. We would practice this when we would go out to eat. Look at the server. You're gonna order, look at the server. She's not a robot. This isn't like a drive-through window. Look at her, she's a person, and say, I want chicken nuggets, because that's what they always want. And values and skills. Speak up for yourself, okay. Then we enter into some of the most challenging years, the coaching years during those teenage years. Now think about this, home team. A coach removes himself from the field, but is still on the sidelines and sending in plays. That's where we are in those teenage years. We're a coach in their life. Like they're running the play, we're sending it in, we're watching, and then we're giving feedback on what they're doing. During this time, here's what I'm focused on. I want to connect more than correct. We've lived through a lot of the correction years. Now I want to connect. It's about relationship, establishing these things. And during this entire season, what I have in my mind, whether they're 13 or 15 or heading into 18, is I'm letting go. I'm getting ready to release that arrow into the world. And so you got to give more and more rope, more and more responsibility, and you're doing it under this safety net, okay? During this time where when they do make mistakes, it's not as detrimental when they're out in the world. And so during these coaching years, a big thing I'm thinking about is conversations. I'm asking questions all the time. They get sick of it. How was your day? How was your day? What did you, yeah. Is everything going good with it? Fine. And then we just ask questions, and what about this, what about that? And every once in a while, look at me, parents, then they'll start talking. And when they open their mouth, nothing is more important, right? Because this is my moment. I got to capture this. And I'm listening to what they're going to have to say. Now, listen, this is very important. Look at me, look at me. And then don't freak out, okay? Number one rule, don't freak out. Because they're going to tell you things. They're going to tell you things that are like, ooh, okay. You lit what on fire? Okay, she did what? And you want to practice your poker face in the mirror. Why? Because I want them to keep talking. I want them to keep telling me. And then I get the opportunity. They're going to press in to see, can I shock you? There are so many times when we were having a conversation with our kids and my wife is squeezing my leg under the table and I'm cutting that eye at her. I'm like, can you believe they're telling us this right now? And then they would leave and I go, would you have told your parents that? I would never have told my parents that. But that's the win. That's the win. But because because part of our target is a relationship. Whatever you're going through, we want to help you process. They're going to process it with somebody. Listen, this is so important. Carry it with you. Don't bail them out. Let them fail. This is so hard because we love our kids. And we think when they're going through something difficult or stressful, when they do something challenging, that our role is to help remove that because that's a hard thing. But that is the exact tool that God uses to develop them. This is how we all grow. Listen, I want to help you. Listen, parents, stop going down to the school. Stop emailing your kid's teacher every 5 minutes. Stop bailing them out. Stop going to their coaches and advocating for them. Let them do that. When they forget their homework and say, hey, can you bring that up here? Go, no, I can't. I guess you'll work that out. Mom, I forgot my lunch again. Can you bring it up here? No. I think you need to fast and pray. Think about that over lunch. That's how we learn. They're going to be okay. Why? Because I want them to fail here, not out there. This is how we grow. This is how we, So be a student of your kids. Every kid's different. Every kid's got unique personality and gift and bent. But remember, they're arrows. So we're shaping them. We're sharpening them. We're sending them. And they're unique. So be a student of your kids. What's their personality? How do they learn best? What do they need words of affirmation, or do they what all the things? Like, think about how can I want to be an expert at my kid. If you know more about your team at work's working genius, or whether or not they're a high D or personality test than we do our kids, we're missing it. Go all in on that. I want to give you a couple resources today. If you have a kid specifically in the coaching years, middle school, late elementary, this book is gold. It's called The Anxious Generation. We've all read it as a team, and it is so, so helpful. Sometimes, I'm guilty of this, we'll say to our kids, you're a middle school student. I went to middle school. You didn't go to the same middle school they do. It's different. This is the most challenging time to be a teenager in the history of the world. Imagine the anxiety and pressure, and so much of it comes from technology. So much of it comes from social media. Whatever level you are involved with your kid, social media, whatever level you're involved technologically, like, you need to get more involved. Read this book. It'll help you. And then we also have a resource here at Journey. We just call it the Parent Q app, and encourage you to download that. It's got all kinds of things to help. So we hope that we go from there into the friendship years. My kids are adult kids. We're going to talk about a lot about adult kids next week as they grow in. And we're like a giraffe on roller skates with this. Like, we're just figuring it out. But here's what we know. We never stop being their parents. I had this idea, I think Amy and I had this idea, hey, the kids will grow up, they'll move away, they'll go to college, and then we'll kind of end that time. You just don't, right, parents? You don't end worrying about them. You don't end praying for them. You certainly don't end giving them money. You're always giving them money. And then we got to say, you got this. How can I help? You got this. How can I help? We move from being a coach to a cheerleader. So we'll end with this verse today. But if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose for yourself this day whom you will serve. Joshua is writing this, and he's an old man. He's got great-grandchildren at this point, lots of people in his family. And he says, we're all going to choose something to serve. We're all going to choose a target to aim at. And he says, but as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. We're going to do everything we can to point our kids toward faith and character and good relationships. I've given you a lot of stuff today, but listen, there's a lot of great parents in this room. A lot of you are just working so hard to get it right. And I just want to encourage you, lean in. Lean in. Lean in. Do everything you can to encourage. Become a student of your kid. Be involved. Be engaged. Even when they're pushing as hard as they can away, do everything you can to stay involved. It's a fight. It's a knife fight every day to stay involved in the lives of your kids. It's so easy, especially a lot of times as dads, to just pull back. But we, again, not perfect, but we're starting to live through some of the blessing and reward of planting so many seeds, passing on from one generation to the next. And so I just want to encourage you to do that as well. Let's pray together. God, thank you for your wisdom and words. Thank you that you've put arrows in our hands, that you want us to shape them and send them. So help us to do that. Maybe you're here today and you go, I really need prayer with my kids right now. I'm really going through it with one of my kids. And I would never call you out and never embarrass you in any way, but I would like to pray for you today. If you would say, Scotty, would you please pray for one of my kids? I'm really struggling right now. Would you just raise your hand up so I can pray for you? Anybody else? There's hands all over this room. God, I just pray for these people who are brave enough to raise their hands and those who said, I don't have enough courage to do that right now. I pray that you would give them strength and endurance. I pray you'd give them wisdom. I pray you'd give them direction. I pray that they would feel your presence right now. I pray that they would have a long game mentality in their minds, that they would just keep being steadfast and faithful, knowing that your word promises that if we lead a child, train them up in the way that they should go, that when they're old, that they will not depart from it, that what they're doing matters. Give them encouragement today. Maybe you're here today and you'd say, that's all great. Maybe you're over at Lone Tree, maybe you're over at Parker, and you go, that's great, but what I need is a relationship with God. I need to start following Jesus. And if that's you, I always give people a chance to get started in their relationship with God here at Journey every Sunday. And maybe that's you and you'd say something like this, Jesus, I need you. I need you in my life. I believe you died on a cross for my sins. I believe you rose from the grave. And the best way I know how, I'm just asking you to come into my life. Help me to start following you today. Give me a new purpose and a new direction. In Jesus' name, amen.